What's up? We're back, and today we're going to talk about pain.
Choose your pain.
That's right. Pain, the way that we are in context of this, the way we're talking about pain, we're talking about the pain of changing, the pain of growth. And Chris, we were just talking about this, and Chris had a good point. He said that most people see pain as a bad thing. Pain is sometimes associated with a negative connotation. But what if how you look at pain is different? What if you apply pain, the growth of pain, the pain of changing something so that you can become better, so that you can be a better person?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, they associate pain with injury. And I was reading this book by Brene Brown. I think that's how you pronounce her name, Atlas of the Heart. And I believe that's where I got this from. She talks about emotional pain could be in someone's experience, in their brains. The experience of emotional pain is just as real as the experience of physical pain. So they avoid it. They avoid it with all costs because guess what? It hurts. It hurts just like physical, just like you fall and you scrape your elbow. So that's why people avoid maybe interacting with someone new because they're afraid of rejection. That's why some fellas don't shoot their shot at the young ladies because they're afraid of the rejection. That's why in a marriage, some issues are not resolved because it's the emotional pain, and sometimes you're afraid to lay down your pride, humble yourself, and be the first one to initiate conversation, or be the first one to say I'm sorry, or admit that you are wrong, because you don't know what to expect, and you're associating that pain and the resistance that you feel with getting to that place, or actually carrying out that act, with potential injury that you hadn't even experienced yet. But on the other side of that, there could be a lot of growth. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, because I really feel like that's when we had a shift in our marriage, man. We had a lot of great people pouring into us. We pursued a lot of good resources. We were sitting under a great ministry, and a lot of God was just doing a lot of good work in our life. But we still had to face the pain of change. We still had to embrace it. We still had to push into the resistance of it. And because of it, began to work for us, beautiful fruit on the opposite side of it.
Amen. So what does that look like? It's that I'll use myself. So it's that those words that were said, or something that was said that you internalize, and you're like, man, I was a little offended by that, but I'm not going to even bring it up because I don't want to get into an argument about it. And now that emotion is festering. So now you're acting a certain way, or you doing something, but you're annoyed, but you don't want to bring up what that thing was. So the pain of that for me was sitting down and identifying my emotions. Hey, Chris, that comment, that made me feel, right? And working through that emotion and how that made me feel, and actually getting uncomfortable and talking about it and sharing about it. So that's where the level of humility had to come in, because now I got to get uncomfortable and talk about how I feel. Or if I was wrong, I need to apologize for being wrong, or vice versa. So the pain of actually having to deal with what the situation is, and not just sweeping it under the rug and being like, okay, whatever, it'll come up some other time, because some other time may be when it's 3 or 4 other situations, and now it's all compiled, and now you're throwing out something that happened a month ago. Nobody even remembers what it was, but you're still holding on to that thing because you didn't experience the pain of that situation and deal with it in that moment.
Why is that painful? Why is dealing with it in the moment painful, and going through the whole situation of identifying the emotion?
Because sometimes you never really know what the response of the other person is going to be, because we cannot control anyone else's response, right? We're responsible for ourselves, and we're responsible for how we respond, our actions. And so sometimes, this thing that may have impacted you, this whatever it could be, the pain of actually having to deal with that is sometimes you don't know how the other person may respond, because you can't control them. So now you have to be in a place of what's the word I'm looking for? it's a level of emotional intelligence, because if that person responds and it's, it's okay, you're able to work through that situation, good. But what if that person now is offended? Mm-hmm. Now you have to be emotionally mature enough to not have a back and forth offense with each other. Now we don't even know what we're arguing about. Who was the first person offended? Because now we're both offended. We're going back and forth about it.
Yeah. And, and guys, this, the complexity of something like this, you can go in a million different ways when you're talking about it and expressing it. And it's so, just a lot of dynamics to it. I think part of the pain as well is different, especially when it comes down to identifying emotions, that whole thing of, man, I got to think about how I'm feeling. I don't know what I'm feeling. It's almost like you're trying to learn Spanish and you've never sat in a Spanish course before. You don't have any friends that speak, that's habla español. And it's like, man, I'm trying to learn this new language. You're talking to me in a new language. I have no idea what you're saying. You wanted me to talk to you in a new language, but I have no idea how to express myself. And it's so frustrating. And the pain of change. The pain there is, I gotta grow in this though. If I really want to save my marriage, if I really want to have a good marriage, not just be married just to say you're married, but to have some level of quality in your marriage. Because Angela, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that for someone to be married and have any type of marriage where they can enjoy themselves, that it has to be some level of, you got to grow yourself emotionally in some way. You got to have some level of vocabulary. You got to have some level of expression and recognition of what you're feeling and what the other person is feeling, and being able to express those things and being able to validate. Because if the validation is never there, if the validation is never there, then you could say, I'm sorry. You can move on.
It didn't mean anything.
You know what I mean? Man,
Hill of beans.
Hill of beans. We said I'm sorry so many times, but it's when the genuine, authentic. Hey, look, I understand that you feel hurt, and I understand I said something to hurt you, and I didn't mean to. When you starting to. And I put a video out on this the other day about empathy. When you able to come into that person's experience and you feel their pain, and you're validating their emotions and you're living it with them, I think that's one of the keys. But here's the thing: choose your pain. Do you want to choose the pain of deciding to figure out what you're feeling every single day and developing a habit and learning a new language? The pain of no longer sweeping things under the rug, the pain of
stand up till you can figure it out.
Stand up till you can figure out. We can talk about some of these things later. The pain of you mad, but you got to validate somebody else's emotions. You got to lay down your pride and say, hey, okay, both of y'all did something wrong. It wasn't, it may have been 20%, 80%, but yeah, both of you have some ownership in the wrong that you did. And having to be the first to say, look, I was wrong. That's painful. It's painful, man. It's the flesh dying. You gotta, you know what I mean? Subdue this thing.
Take 100% responsibility for even your 20%.
100%, yeah. Or do you want the pain of not talking to each other at night, laying in bed, backs turned to each other, getting up, leaving the house, don't say bye, don't give each other a kiss or hug, not knowing if you'll
never experienced any of this stuff he's talking about, so
not knowing if you'll see him for the last time. You know what I mean? Just because of pride, anger. It's a process, man. We've been there. We to some point we're still growing from that place. And then not talking to each other all day and then coming home not knowing what to expect. The pain of going through, it was one thing when it was just Angela and I, and we ain't talk to each other. Okay, you go in your room, I go in my room. But when you have a family, when you have children in the mix, and they trying to talk to mom and dad, and then now they discern that mom and dad ain't feeling each other.
Then they call you out.
Yeah, so because our children are very, very emotionally aware. They really are. So when mom and dad are not vibing, then they can sense it, and it's a blessing. But Yeah, man. It's this topic is deep. You know, we can go in layers and layers of it, but here's a call to action. Choose your pain. You know, decide to push into the. We encourage you to push into the pain of growth. Push into the pain of reaching for somebody, reaching for a different skill set, because it's all a skill set. You don't have to you don't have to be born with a level of emotional awareness. This is not like IQ. EQ, emotional quotient, or emotional intelligence, is something that you can grasp, take hold of, read books, get around people that are emotionally aware, and grow it. Absolutely. And develop it.
Yep, it's always a skill that you can learn to do more from. So if we shared something that was impactful for you today, guess what you can do for us? Subscribe. You can like this video. You can share it with other people. Invite some people to come listen to these videos with you. And hey, if there's something in this vein or something that we talked about that you want to hear more of, drop us a comment and let us know. We cannot wait to hear from you guys on the next video. Go win.
Absolutely. Go win.